Hello and welcome to Round the Table Live with Christian Concern. And today we are talking about pills by post-abortion, asking the question, is it harmful for women? And I'm delighted to be joined today by Christian Hacking from CBR UK and also by Amrita, a mother of a lovely 2-year-old daughter. Thank you so much for joining us, Christian and Amrita. Lovely to see you. And Christian, you helped to organise an event, a fringe event at the Conservative Party conference earlier this week, asking this very question about is pills by post-abortions harming women? Tell us why you did that and what you were seeking to achieve through that event.
So obviously double pills by post-abortion, also known as telemedicine abortion or DIY abortion, was brought in by the Conservatives both in 2018 and then during the pandemic, the full DIY abortions were brought in. So basically that is the ability for women to receive medical abortion pills up to 10 weeks gestation in their homes without any face-to-face appointment or ultrasound scan. So normally this takes the form of just a single phone call, which Christian Concern actually did a mystery client investigation on back in 2020, but I'll probably talk more about that later. So it was brought in by the Conservatives. So we and ever since it got brought in, it
was initially an emergency measure, wasn't it, during the COVID pandemic, Christian? And then after a few years, and it's actually put to a vote in Parliament, and it went through just about 18 months ago, wasn't it? In March last year, I think.
Yes. So it was brought in. It was heavily lobbied by the abortion industry. It was brought in whilst we were all freaking out about the coronavirus, and then just when they were going to bring it back to the old way of doing it, being at least one in-clinic assessment before the pills are sent home with you, they've made it fully legal, and it's now been passed in law. And that was actually a Conservative peer named Baroness Sugg brought that in. So because it's been the expansion of abortion into homes has been such a Conservative thing, we figured let's take this information to the Conservative conference. So we ran a fringe event just out about 5 minutes walk from the conference. We invited all the UK's largest abortion providers and 25 other organisations that have been promoting or pushing for abortion, particularly DIY abortion. None of them wanted to attend, so we ran the event anyway, and we had an expert panel of Michael Phillips, Andrea Williams, Amrita Khan just below, and also Alethea Williams from SPUC all came and just brought to bear various facets of why this is an absolute disaster and why it needs to be stopped and at the very least monitored.
Brilliant. Okay, and listen, if you're watching live today on Facebook or YouTube, we can see your comments, and if you've got any questions for Christian or Amrita, do put them in the comments and we will try and answer them. Now, Amrita, you were there at the fringe event. I think you've muted yourself just now because your child may be making a little bit of noise. But Amrita, tell us something. What's your experience of having taken one of these pills?
So I believe, I don't know if anyone's heard my story, but my story basically is what a lot of women's stories are. A lot of women can relate to my story in the sense of that I had an unplanned pregnancy, and I was in a situation where I didn't have the information available to me, where I knew what I was doing in a sense. So, and I had people around me that just said, if you have an unplanned pregnancy, you have an abortion. That's what I did. I looked for information from the abortion clinic BPAS. Didn't receive that information. If anything, it was seemed as odd that I was even asking questions. So then I ordered
what kind of questions were you asking, Amrita, that they thought were odd?
So I had quite a long list of questions, moral questions about basically is a baby in the stomach. When does a baby become a baby? Technically, like when's the first heartbeat? And obviously back then I was not as informed as I am now. So it was questions like that, and it was also questions how would it affect me? Is there any medical problems? Has there been any medical problems? And these are questions I didn't get a chance to ask because, I was cut off quite abruptly and asked, "Do you want an abortion pill or not?" So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm just overthinking this situation. It might just be as simple as taking a pill, as everyone's saying. So I did end up taking the first pill, and I got sent to me, and even after, like straight after, I regretted it and contacted BPAS again, and still got no support or information. And it was until
so just to be clear, you took the first after some discussion, which you didn't feel your questions were properly answered by BPAS. You decided you would take the pill after all, the first one of the two pills that you take, and as soon as you took it, you regretted it, which is a common experience actually, I've heard. And so you then went back to BPAS saying, "Oh no, I've taken the first pill. What can I do? Is there any way to out?" That's the kind of thing you're asking, yeah?
Yeah. So I called them in a huge panic, like you would. And he said, "I regret it. Is there anything?" And in my mind, I didn't have any information of the reverse appeal or anything. So in my mind, I thought, "Oh, that's it." But I had so much guilt and regret at that point. I thought, okay, I need to try anything. So contacted BPAS, and the woman was very calm, considering I was quite panicked, and just said this happened a lot, which has stuck in my head ever since.
This happens a lot. This happens a lot. Wow, that's very interesting admission, isn't it? This happens a lot. How many women, poor women, call them up, experiencing desperate regret and guilt, and BPAS say, "Oh yeah, don't worry, this happens a lot." Gosh.
Yeah, it is quite horrific, and that's why I find it so important for me to be able to tell my story, and for women to understand that you can have regret. It is more than just taking a pill at the end of the day. And I think luckily I'm one of the lucky women that my child did survive after contacting Dr. Dermot and taking the progesterone pill.
So you basically then went online and sort of searched around. What can I do?
Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No, that's all right. That's right. Yeah, and you ended up finding. I think it was Dermot Kearney, was it? Dr. Dermot Kearney.
It was, yeah. So after having the call BPAS and asking them, what should I do? Is there anything that I can do after taking the first pill? They said to me, "Oh, if you don't bleed, you should be absolutely fine." And obviously I was quite panicked, and I thought, okay, that I can't just leave it to that. So then I Googled the abortion reversible, but I didn't Google that exactly. I said I Googled something along the lines of reversing abortion. So that's why I found Dr. Dermot, and I contacted him, and he said to me, "That's absolutely fine. You can take the progesterone pill. There's the thing available, this tablet available." And then he sent it to my pharmacy, which I took the next morning because it was quite late at night at that point. And the next morning I woke up and I was bleeding a bit, so I went straight to pharmacy, picked up the pill, and ever since then my pregnancy been absolutely fine. I had my 8-week scan shortly after, and I was absolutely fine.
We can just about see your little beautiful baby girl in the background behind you.
Yeah, she's making quite a bit of effort.
Happily playing away,
Yeah.
And nearly 2 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's doing that fine. Throughout my whole pregnancy, it was a huge fear of mine, in case there was never a point where I regretted going back on my decision of not having an abortion. If anything, I felt quite a lot of guilt throughout my pregnancy, and quite a lot of worry that it could affect her by taking the first abortion, but it could affect her in any way. Yeah, and I just think with the DIY abortion, if it didn't seem as easy as a choice, and imagine you don't talk to anyone, you don't ask, they don't give you any information on medical care or anything, and it's just simple as, okay, we'll just send it through through the post, like a sample of like a shampoo or something. It's easy as that, and so I didn't get the seriousness of actually taking it until after I took it.
Yeah. So, remarkable story, and wonderful that your daughter is there, and lovely, and you were able to get that treatment and reverse the effects of that first pill there, which is amazing, really. Now, Christian, just coming back to you, you've you've done things like ask members of the public and looked at surveys and things about what people think of abortion and DIY abortion and things. I think we've got maybe a little video that of a little short clip you did about that. Let's just play that video and then let's sort of discuss what you found, Christian, around this kind of thing.
That's crazy.
See, I don't think that's very safe.
God.
Well, that's shocking.
Hello, Christian Hacking here from CBR UK, asking members of the public what they think about DIY home abortion. So what do you think about abortion?
I think I'm pro-abortion.
It should be a choice, and there shouldn't be laws saying no abortion.
It depends on the situation, actually.
I feel that everyone has the right to do what they want to do with their own body. I'm 100% support it.
I think it's the right of a woman to choose.
I don't think it should be necessarily the first thing, but if you really can't go through with it, then I think that's totally up to you. It's your body.
Do you know how many abortions took place last year in England and Wales?
I have no idea.
Do you want to take a guess?
Over 1,000.
1,000?
1,000. So the correct answer is 210,860.
Really?
That's not a healthy society, is it?
Okay, that's a lot.
So there's a quick clip there, and you can go to CBR on YouTube and watch the whole thing. But Christian, what was your experience from asking people these simple questions and then presenting them with facts that they obviously didn't know about, for example, how many abortions there are and so on?
Well, I mean, it's very simple. Most people, when given the facts on abortion, and particularly DIY abortion, they just think it's incredibly crazy. They think it's unsafe and unwise for women to be effectively killing their own babies using these abortion pills in their own homes without medical assistance. And we've actually found that across the board. So even pro-choice people who support pro-abortion people, the people who support abortion for certain circumstances, even they flag issues with this. So CBR UK conducted a survey in April. We published it in April this year. I think it was something like 71% of people were against DIY home abortion, with something like 62% of them self-identifying as pro-life. And that's not the only survey. Another independent survey was conducted by Right to Life that found 71% of people were deeply concerned about DIY home abortion. But perhaps the greatest evidence of public opinion against abortion was the government consultation into DIY abortion, which they labelled early medical abortion, one of their euphemisms. That found that 70% of respondents, and that was 18,000 people took part in that consultation in total, said that they thought DIY abortion should end immediately. So public opinion, public opinion and the abortion industry have never really gone together because the public aren't always consulted and asked before they make their new move. But really, if there was a move by the abortion industry that doesn't enjoy public support, you can't get a starker contrast than DIY abortion.
And you, in that clip we watched there, and I see we're just putting the link on YouTube and Facebook now for the full video there, which is only 3 minutes long or something. But first of all, you sort of say, do you know how many abortions took place? And they guess about 1,000. And then you say it's 210,000. I think you're saying now it could be even higher than that, Christian. Is that right?
Yeah, so abortion statistics in the UK, every year we conduct around 200 and what used to be 210,000 abortions a year. Since DIY abortion was introduced, it's skyrocketed, right? So in Scotland, it's gone up by 20%. In the UK, it's gone up by 17%. So this year,
wow, that's a big increase, a very big increase.
Huge increase. And so this year we're heading towards an increase of the numbers are getting so big, and for whatever reason, the Department of Health are only publishing every 6 months. They used to publish the whole year, but we're heading towards 250,000 abortions this year. But of those being DIY abortions, the total figure of DIY abortions since it was introduced, so this is women taking both abortion pills, mifepristone and misoprostol at home, and expelling their baby at home, is 390,000 women have done that since this was introduced, which just means that the duress and the struggle that Amrita went through, this is happening around 9,000 times a month in homes up and down the country, with women taking the abortion pill, and there's a number of people who have the similar testimony to Amrita. They take it, and as soon as the first thing they want to do is get rid of it, expel it. A sudden regret about what they've done, and so this is happening, thousands of times, and this isn't even to get into the complications and the issues further down the line that these we know these pills are generating.
I can see that Michael Pesek has put a comment there on YouTube saying that since the abortion providers never tell women of the option of abortion reversal treatment, there's no valid informed consent. That makes every pills by post abortion a forced abortion. I mean, in a sense, I suppose that's right, isn't it, Christian? Because they don't.
Yeah, I think Amrita's story and I think Michael Petek asks a good question here, which is it raised huge questions around informed consent. Every woman going into an abortion procedure should know that you can reverse medical abortion with a large dose of progesterone, a drug that is essential for the continuation of a pregnancy, and large doses of it make you nauseous, but it doesn't harm you in any way. Every woman going into an abortion should know that, because as Amrita's story says, people have regrets, and there are options, and progesterone, which is prescribed in IVF patients, can be prescribed from your local pharmacy if a GP is willing to sign it off. So that's just one area of informed consent that needs correcting. I think there's numerous other areas to do with complication rates and what women are going to expect from psychological fallout to, future.
Well, we can come on to that, but Amrita, what is your view on these pills by post abortions? Would you do you think it should be legal, or what do you think now, having been through your experience?
I believe DIY abortion is almost another way of saying that abortion companies don't care. I believe that it would, for me personally, it would have made such a difference seeing someone face to face. It would have made it seem not as normal just to quickly take a pill. It would have made me realize, okay, then this is an actual medical situation. And yeah, I would have been able to ask more questions. I would have felt more comforted. I would have felt safer. There's so many reasons why DIY abortion should not just be as simple as posting for the post and just having a little leaflet that says take this first pill and then take a second pill. I believe that it should, if there's going to be a situation where abortion is still going to be available for a woman's sake, at least it should be in the hospital, in a safe place where someone can ask questions and actually have more time to think about what they're going to do. That's what my thoughts are on it.
Very good. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And Christian, when you when you tell people, like, where do you think abortions take place? Here's the three options: in a hospital, in a clinic, or at home, expelled down the toilet. Most people don't think that most abortions are happening in the home, do they?
No. Most people say private clinic or hospital because they assume that abortion is a medical procedure. At the very least, they assume it's a medical procedure that requires medical supervision. But the reality is, there's evidence. I think it's 2017, the National Institute of Care Excellence. You can start to see evidence of the abortion industry pushing for telemedicine abortion, pushing for abortion, into homes, new environments. And then COVID came. It was their perfect excuse, and they just called up their contacts in the civil service and they pushed it through. And this was information discovered by Christian Concern when you guys did a judicial review into this stuff. So this has always been their agenda, and it's really showing their wanton disregard for women. And this is something that the sooner we there's just lots of people like Amrita calling up, oh, not another one. Oh, this happens all the time. Come on, are you going to take the pills? It's this kind of this conveyor belt that women find themselves on, and the abortion industry. I mean, BPAS stands for British Pregnancy Advisory Service. There's clearly very little advice going on. There's clearly very little assessment of options. This is why we call it the abortion industry. It's because it's an industry that benefits from abortion, and they get paid per abortion. And so when you're dealing with 9,000 people and you're trying to cut overheads and staffing things, you just want to get those pills posted as soon as possible, which means women are not being cared for. And this is really why the Care for Women Partnership, which is a collaboration of pro-life groups working together with CBR UK and Christian Concern included, quite set up just to try to genuinely care for women, to try to genuinely give them the facts, to be there for them to pick up the pieces after this stuff has gone wrong, and to kind of put a stick in the wheels of this industry that is just going forward with a callous disregard for babies' lives and women's health.
Now, the question, though, that you were asking in this Fringe event is it harmful or is it safe, Christian? What is your answer to that question?
So my answer is no, it's not safe at all, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean, you can cycle down you could cycle down a staircase on your bike, right? And in 60% of chances, you'll make it down without a scathe. It doesn't mean it's safe, right? So the way it's being presented in the media and by the abortion industry is, most people having these pills at home, past their baby or the pregnancy remains, they call it, and nothing more is said. That still doesn't make it safe. And the reason why it's not safe is because an FOI survey that was conducted on 83 UK NHS hospitals found that 1 in 17 women who take these pills require hospital treatment. And that can be for anything from, the psychological trauma of passing the baby to the pain levels being far greater than they expected, to more serious situations where it's an incomplete abortion. So the baby hasn't fully passed, parts of the baby have been left behind, or parts of the placenta have been left behind. And so women are entering hospital.
Or loss of blood as well.
That's another big one, which is hemorrhage. So 11,000 around. I think hemorrhage accounts for 2% of abortions. We're talking in the thousands of women going to hospital. They are hemorrhaging. They need blood transfusions. They need to be admitted. And sometimes the hemorrhage can actually happen, a month after the abortion procedure, because part of the baby has got caught in, your body's trying to move on, and then suddenly you have a massive hemorrhage later. And that's another stat that we discovered. And when we did our grassroots research, was ambulance call-outs have gone up by 164% for medical abortions at home since this stuff is. So we know that there's a huge fallout, complication rates, women being admitted to hospitals, serious things like, hemorrhage, uterine perforation is another one. There were 9 uterine perforations for medical abortion last year. All this stuff is happening, but why is it pro-lifers doing FOI surveys of hospitals in order to discover it? And the reason for that is because this is so ideologically driven that the safeguards and the data checks just simply aren't in place. And one of the big takeaways that we were trying to push at this Fringe event, and please do watch it when CC publish it next week, is just data collection. That NHS numbers must be linked to DIY abortions, which they currently aren't. Just so even people who don't have an axe to grind, people who don't have an ideological position on this, can at least just assess it for themselves to see whether this is harming women or benefiting them.
Yes, and it is extraordinary, isn't it? It must be the only clinical procedure where you're not required to note the NHS number of the person concerned, so they can't track then future complications that arise from having had the abortion pill. And in fact, it wouldn't be on the medical records, the NHS medical records, that they've had these abortion pills. Obviously a very significant medical event to have happened, and it wouldn't be recorded on the NHS system, I think. Well, it's kind of extraordinary, isn't it, Christian?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's what I would argue is the greatest weak spot of this whole campaign, or the detail that needs to be rectified at the first available opportunity, which is, whilst the abortion industry can push arguments of privacy and that this information is not relevant. It is. If it's a medical procedure that carries significant risks of incomplete abortion, it was only this summer that the famous Coleman finding that women have an 81% increase of poor mental health outcomes following abortion. If this stuff is known, then of course this needs to be tracked. And you would never bring in a new novel means of administering a surgery and not track it. And yet the abortion industry, using the kind of supercharged rhetoric of choice and autonomy, have somehow managed to kind of get enmity from standard, NHS practice, and on this. And so I think this is an area that even people who are against the killing of innocent unborn babies should be able to find common ground with those who have a different position, simply on the grounds of, well, let's at least collect the data, and that would be a significant event, because it means in 10 years' time we will be able to see black and white whether this has been beneficial for women or not. Although even right from the off, I think common sense and our initial findings suggest that this is devastating for women's health, and actually devastating for the very notion of what a home is. A home is a place where children, like the beautiful little girl we see playing behind Amrita, it's at home. The home is meant to be a place where they're meant to be cared for and protected and nurtured. And so when you allow the home to become the main space in which unborn babies are now killed, you're redefining the nature of a home. And there's tragic stories. Kirsty, who spoke to Care for Women 2 years ago, in her testimony, she said this, and I quote, "My home used to be my happy, safe place. Now it's the place that took the life of my child." And she even tells in detail how she left some blood on the carpet, just as that being the final reminder that she had of her own child. So we have to think not just about the baby's life, not just about the effect on women's health, but we actually have to go further to think, well, what does this do to the very notion of the home and what the home is and what the home should be? So these are all arguments that need to be made and won in the public debate.
That's a very interesting psychological effect, that, isn't it? The effect of you feeling at home. So, Amrita, what would you say if there's somebody watching now who's thinking about phoning up BPS and asking for these pills? What would you say to somebody like that?
I would give them all the information that I didn't have, the information I lacked, letting them know that without pushing them or being forceful, let them know when the first heartbeat is, basically all the information that I wish I knew. I have had conversations in the past. Sorry, you can hear my little girl in the back. I have had conversations in the past where I've said to people, if I knew, say if I did go through the whole abortion journey, and I knew that my child in my stomach did feel pain whilst having this abortion, it would probably tear me apart. So I think giving women enough information and all the information of knowing what options they have, what they can do, and what an abortion pill does, not even just to the child but to themselves, is needed. And that's what I would do. I would make sure that they had all information and say, okay, now make your choice, because it's one of the things, you can't force someone to be in a situation, but it's also you need them to have all the information, and you need to, it's almost like you need to, it's hard to turn away when you know that they're going to make a very difficult decision. So that's what I would say. I would say make sure you have all information. Don't just look at other friends and that have had in this mindset of abortion are fine and this and this. I almost believe the majority of people that have had abortions, whether they say it's true or not, feel regret, but they just don't feel comfortable to say it. So I would just make sure that, I would just open the conversation, just say, this is the information you can have, and this is what people feel afterwards. It's up to you.
I think a friend of mine said, he's got lots of friends who've had abortions, and they won't normally say they feel regret, but it's perhaps when they're drunk or perhaps in a private quiet moment they will express their regret. And so I think you're right. In reality, they do experience regret and guilt about all this thing. Christian, another aspect of this is that you phone up, like you said, with no clinical assessment. So there's no way of checking your gestational age. when you phoned up, and we know from mystery client surveys that they just send out the tablets anyway. Pretty much whatever you say, you can give a fake name, a fake address, no GP registration that's real, and still get these tablets. And so there have been cases where these have been abused, and people have taken these tablets way after the 10-week limit. And that's the other thing. You could phone up inside the 10 weeks and then keep them and take them after it. And so we know there've been cases where people have taken these way past that limit. And now I think it's 5 women have been prosecuted this year for illegal abortions because they've taken them way after this 10-week limit. And the other side, the pro-choice side, are saying that the law's got to be changed. You can't be prosecuting women for carrying out abortions like this. What would you say to that, Christian?
As in, sorry, what would I say about the scope for these measures to be abused by people in desperate situations, or what would I say about the criminalisation of women?
Well, do both. Start with the first one.
Okay, well, to start with the first one, of course that was going to happen, right? Any good medical system builds in human frailty and human sinfulness into the system, right? That's why you have checks and you have locks on medical cupboards and other things. You have special systems because you not only understand that you need to care for people, but you understand that human nature is such that people abuse things, people get addicted to things, people break the rules. And so this is why it was guaranteed right from the off that DIY abortion was always going to be abused. And it's something that the mystery clients survey, which CC commissioned, which I encourage you to read, proved right from the off that, you don't need to, they're not going to check whether you are the gestational age that you are. Even if you are the gestational age as you are, as Amrita powerfully shared in her testimony, people walk around with these pills in their pockets or on their shelves for weeks before they finally take them. So the scope for this to be abused, intentionally or unintentionally, was always there from the start. And it's no surprise that people have been abusing this. And these are the cases that hit the headline. At the end of the first 6 months of DIY home abortion, the abortion industry knew of 52 women who had taken these pills illegally beyond 10 weeks, 4 of which were beyond 24 weeks, of which Carla Foster was.
Well, just explain, the 24 weeks is the limit for abortion altogether. It's 10 weeks for the pills, isn't it? And 24 weeks for medical abortions completely.
So, well, it's 10 weeks. So it's illegal to intentionally kill an unborn baby in the womb beyond 24 weeks in the UK if the baby's healthy. If the baby has a disability or the mother has a psychological issue, you can abort the baby up till full term. So what's interesting is within 6 months of this stuff being brought in, 4 people were in Carla Foster's position, which is they had intentionally killed their children beyond the legal limit for healthy babies in our country.
Let alone the 10-week limit for the pills, they've even gone beyond the legal limit altogether in the country, is 24 weeks.
Sure. And so Carla really will be one of dozens, maybe 20 or 30 women in that similar situation. We know one woman, I think it's Courtney Barnes. Am I getting that name right? There's another lady who has Courtney in her name. She's appearing in a magistrate's court in January on this. Another woman, I think, is appearing in Oxford over this. But all late-term illegal abortions having conducted pills. And the abortion industry, for some reason, are able to use these events. They're not being scrutinized themselves about the sending of pills, but they use these events to try to say that women should not be punished for engaging in an act that kills their child beyond the legal limit. And this really kind of shows the state of the debate that we're having, which is the sanctity of life for the baby is seen as so second rate that a case in which that justice is, people are attempting to do justice for that baby, actually becomes a kind of campaigning tool by which to remove the last remaining legal protections for unborn babies in our country. And this is, again, it's just an area that we have to be, the scriptures are very clear. We have to speak up for the voiceless. We have to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. And clearly, how inappropriate it to use the death of Lily Foster to campaign for laws that would allow for more Lily Fosters to be killed. And we have to win the debate on, the humanity and value of unborn children, or else the abortion industry are going to keep getting away from this, getting away with this. And they line up these things. The abortion industry will be lining up their campaign, they'll be lining up their media messaging, so that when the judge gives his verdict in the January and February cases of next year, they're going to hit the highways and byways, pushing their agenda. So I think this is very serious. It was guaranteed to happen, and really, unless women are coming into clinic and having a gestational scan, then this is not going to stop. And I just don't know how many babies, particularly late-term babies, are going to have to die before health ministers and others decide that actually let's at least go back to a kind of in-clinic model. Not that I think that's a morally good solution, because actually I believe all these babies should be valued and protected in law. And going on to your second point, I guess and linking with what Amrita says, the ability of a woman to go to jail for the killing of her unborn child really depends on how much information they know, right? If they are fully informed in that moment that they are killing a living, breathing, growing baby against the law, then of course, I think in a society that values law and order, then there needs to be a penalty for doing that. But as Amrita's story so helpfully shows, I don't think we can say with any guarantee whatsoever that women have any idea exactly what they're doing, or what the pills will do to their unborn child, or whether it is even an unborn child at all, or whether it's just a fetus or a product of conception. So I think the discussion around the criminalizing of women for taking these pills illegally is downstream of the initial question of what's going on inside the clinics, what women know, what women are being told, because even I'd concede it would be an unfair breach of justice if women were being criminalized for the neglect and the lack of information that the abortion industry are giving them.
Yes, well, I quite agree, Christian. And we need to, if we need to have laws to say, we agree that it's wrong to kill a baby after 24 weeks, then the law needs to say that, and there needs to be an offence of doing that. I agree, as we would agree it's wrong to kill a baby after it's been born as well, and that there's an offence related to that as well. So I quite agree with you. Listen, thank you so much to both of you for joining this conversation. Amrita, your story is very, very powerful and very real, and I'm sure shared by lots of other women in terms of your experience and how you felt about it, and the lack of information, all of that kind of thing. And thank you so much for sharing it, because you're very brave to do so, because there are not very many women who are brave enough to do so, having experienced the kind of thing that you've experienced. So we really appreciate you doing that, and lovely to see your healthy and lovely daughter in the background a little bit there as well. And yeah, really grateful for your time and effort doing this. And Christian as well, thank you for your expertise and your work. We've posted a link, I know, to your video interviewing people, and we will next week hopefully bring out a video of the event that you organised at the Conservative Party conference this week.
Please can I say one more thing before we close?
Yeah.
But just building off something that Amrita said earlier that really struck me, I think a huge part of our contribution here is to help women considering abortion, or even women who've had abortions, to know that we do care for them, right? I think that's a huge thing. That's what the care for women. Amrita said very powerfully at the Fringe event, and I recommend people read it. It's about opening up the conversation, but you can't have an open conversation if you think that the person you're speaking to is going to condemn you, right? And I think the church has a very vital role to say, listen, let's talk about this. We can be open about talking about this. We've all made mistakes. Jesus says that to get angry with someone is to commit murder in your heart. Like, no one's better than anybody else. And so we should, I think that there's so much of what needs to happen. And before we can expect women to come to us and tell us their stories, is helping them to not only see that the abortion industry doesn't care for them, but actually to say that the church and the Christian community do care for them, whoever they are, whatever their story. And I think that's a massive, for all the technical stuff I've been talking about, the big thing is, hang on, we actually really do care. And if we can help people to see it, change.
Yeah. Fantastic. Some noise there from the little baby in the background. Listen, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for watching as well. If you found that as interesting and helpful as I did, really appreciate the testimony again, Amrita. Look forward to chatting with you again soon. We're not going to be here next week. We have an office wedding, which we're all very excited about next Friday, but we're joining you the week after that again. So thank you for joining us, and do follow us and like us, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.